Hello and welcome to Sunday morning speed runs of Swords Without Master. We're all gonna dance. Oh, and do the thing we stretch so we feel big and strong. I need to stretch all 8 of my legs. Hey, this is Actual Play, and we are going to be playing Swords Without Master. My name is Sean Nittner. I use he, him pronouns, as you can see below. And I am going to be playing for the first time. I've been hosting the games before this, and that's been a blast. But this time I'm going to play the friend of Arahan, Twice Dead, to Click Chick. So we'll see if my Grasshopper man can keep up with the other amazing rogues that are here. It's gonna be great.
I'm Nadja, aka Tristeray. I am currently in Blue Jay's house using her computer. If I forget and type in chat, it will say Blue Jay, but she is not here. She should be sleeping. I will be playing Eye of the Tide, who is a really spoopy moon witch person. And she has had her voice stolen, so she's kind of mad but can't scream about it. Her pronouns, and yeah, that's it for me.
Am I next?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Emily, and I will be playing Lena, who has sort of a habit of making and finding saunas. And when last we saw some of this band, we were in an ancient sauna where we met Glitchick. And Lena has a terrible habit of stealing valuable things from wizards, which surely can't go wrong, not at all, except over and over again. So I use she, her pronouns, and I'm excited to play.
There's been lots of like wizard theft and wizard wronging and wizard vengeance. I get a feeling that wizards are just bad dudes.
Well, speaking of wizards, I'm Epi. I use he, him pronouns. I will be overplaying, so I don't have a rogue to send on this adventure. I will be sending these rogues on the adventure, and I'm super excited about this. And I think what I'm going to do here, because this is mainly the original crew plus a new Sean, I'm going to do a brief overview of the rules before we go into the game to bring everyone up to date. If you have any questions while I'm doing this, please stop me, because I get into a spiel and then forget what I have and haven't said. But let's talk about Swords Without Master. Let's talk about how this game works. I'm the overplayer, and these other 3 fine players are called the rogue players. They have rogues that they're going to champion, and I take on duties that are very similar to the traditional game master role that you might experience from other role-playing games, which I won't mention. But we have an objective that we work on together, and that objective is to create an enthralling sword and sorcery short story. And that's what we're going to do using this game. Sometimes the game is going to help us, and sometimes the game's going to get in our way, and it's our duty to rise to the occasion, to take it over. Let's talk about the 3 big elements that make up the Swords Without Master. There are the phases, there are the threads, and there are the tones. And I'm going to start with the tones. If you are we looking at the game board right now? I don't actually see what's on the stream, but I think Sean's muted. I think he's trying to say something to me.
Yes, I am trying to find the dang unmute button. Too many darn windows. Playing this game and having my hair be all floofy are issues.
No, humble bragging about having hair.
Yeah.
Hair in 2018.
Yeah, we are now over on the thing, so you can show folks Roll20.
Yeah, so you see these 2 dice, one brightly colored orange and purple one, and the other one a purple and white with white pips. These are our tone dice. Whenever we go to do something in the game, we're going to roll them. The brightly colored one is our jovial die, and the darker colored one is our glum die. We'll roll to determine our tone. Whichever die is the higher one, it will be our tone. When I roll, I'm going to be determining the overtone, which is the tone for the world around us. When the rogues roll, they will be determining their own individual tone, which may be in contrast. The tone is basically something we want to hit with our narration. It is something that we were going to broadly interpret. So when we say jovial, we don't mean that we're always going to be happy and guffawing and laughing out loud. Jovial just means stuff that is bright or loud or passionate or upbeat. It can be let's say if you happen to be angry and you roll jovial, that can be you frothing at the mouth and yelling. You're so angry. Glum is the opposite of those. It's reserved, it's quiet, it's methodic, it's cool tones, it's minor key, if you will. It's dark. And if you're angry and you roll glum, you might be giving someone an icy stare, that sort of thing. So we roll those, we determine our tone, and we make sure in our narration we try and hit that tone. It doesn't mean that our entire narration has to be in that tone. In fact, quite often it's useful to be narrating in the other tone and then suddenly switch to the tone you're supposed to hit to kind of put emphasis on it and show it off. If we roll a tie, and by we, I mean the rogue players. I'm the overplayer. From here on out, when it comes to dice, I just roll and go with whatever the tone is. I don't have to deal with any of these other things. But with the rogue players, if they roll a tie, we're going to have a stymie, which means whatever they're going to do, they can't for some reason. It's up to them to come up with what that reason is. But it also means that our overtone flips. So if it was glum, it becomes jovial. If it was jovial, it becomes glum. And this flip is an escalation in the story. The example I tend to use is like a bar fight. You're quietly drinking in the bar and someone bumps into you, and so you're rolling to take a drink, I guess, and someone bumps into you, and you roll a stymie. That means you can't have your drink. You spill it, and you decide that it turns into a raucous fight. And then in the middle of that fight, somebody rolls a stymie, and it flips the overtone from jovial to glum again, and that means somebody's pulled out a knife, and now we're quiet because his deadly intent is on the table. That sort of thing. All right, so that's how the tone dice work. The other thing we should know about, or one of the other two things, are the phases. There are 3 phases in this game. They can happen in any order. They can happen, one phase can follow the exact same phase that we were just in. There's no rules about like you have to have each of the 3 phases in the game. All the phases are up to me. I'm the overplayer. I decide what phase we're going to be in, and it's whatever I feel suits the story. The phases are the perilous phase, the discovery phase, and the rogues phase. In the perilous phase, we will be, because of the name, it's dangerous. Death is on the table. The rogues themselves can perish during a perilous phase. So how the perilous phase works is that I will roll the tone for the overtone, and I will start describing where the rogues are, why they're there, and what they're doing. This part of the game is a total railroad. I'm in charge of the rogues, and that's fine because in a moment you'll gain control of your rogues and you can teach me how that was a dumb idea or whatever, however you want to handle what I just did. But I roll for the overtone. I start narrating in that tone. I will then, during that narration, telling you where you are, I will give you what's called a thunder. The thunder is a distant threat, something we might have to deal with, but we don't have to deal with right away. And that thunder can just be the slightest hint of a threat. It doesn't have to be, I don't have to explain what it is. I can just describe a shifting in the grasses. If you're standing on a plane, you can see out in the distance that some of the grasses are shifting against the wind, and that's it. I don't have to tell you what's doing that or what's happening. When I give you the thunder, I will pick up the dice, and on roll 20 here, I will hide them from the table. And then when I'm done giving the thunder, I'll put the dice back out on the table. After I've given the thunder, in the perilous phase, I will start bringing the storm, which is an immediate threat you do have to deal with. It's something that is right in front of you right now. And I will hand the dice to one of the rogue players. While that rogue player holds on to the dice, I will continue to bring the storm. I will continue to tell you all the horrible things that are happening to your rogues. Everyone is free to slip and struggle, so they can tell me how their rogues are trying to deal with it. But nobody can actually deal with it except for the person with the dice. That person has to roll the dice to shut me up and stop the narration and take over and say how their rogue either gloriously overcomes it or ignobly succumbs to whatever the storm is. It's up to them and how they feel fits with the dice. After they've done that, they can decide this phase is done and we're done with the perilous phase and we move on to something else. They're the only ones who can decide that in the perilous phase. If they don't end the phase, then I continue to bring the storm. They can't roll the dice again until somebody else has rolled it, so they have to hand the dice off to someone else, but they can hold on to those dice and they can make everyone suffer while we wait for me to bring something so bad that they can no longer resist handing the dice to one of their fellow rogue players. When that rogue player gets to die, they too can just hold on to the dice. It's up to them to decide when to roll it. So we can get ourselves in all sorts of trouble. And we just continue like that in the perilous phase. The discovery phase starts the same way. I roll for the overtone, I give you a thunder, and then I hand the dice to one of the rogue players and they roll right away. And during the discovery phase, the rogue player then tells us about something about the world that we live in, whether it's something about the history of the world, something that they're experiencing right now, something that they know, and you're giving us information about the world through your rogue's senses or their experiences or their memories. So this can be anything you want. You can literally be discovering a hoard of gold. You'd be like, oh, I picked up this rock and there's something shiny underneath. Oh, it's a giant mountain of gold. That's fine. That's something you're allowed to do. Or you could be discovering something that's related to what's going on in the story. You can handle that however you want. But once you've made a discovery, you have to ask me a loaded question. And this loaded question, the rules for the loaded questions are they cannot be a yes or no question, because almost always, you're like, oh, I found this hoard of gold. Is it cursed? Yes. Like that's not, there's no suspense there. We know you can ask, what is the curse, which is more interesting, or who could have cursed this gold, or how long will it be before I realize this gold is cursed, that sort of thing. You ask me a loaded question, I answer it. When I'm done answering it, I decide if we end the phase. So I have the power to end the discovery phase, nobody else. If we don't end the phase, you just hand the dice to another person and they will roll and make a discovery just like you did, and then ask me a loaded question. And we'll continue on that. What I'm doing in that phase, because this is the easiest phase for the overplayer, is I'm just waiting for you guys to tell me what the story's about. So I'll just sit back and let you guys come up with stuff until something sparks in my brain and I'm like, yeah, that's where we're going. We're off. All right, and the final phase we're going to talk about is the rogues phase. And the rogues phase is where the rogues get to be the rogues. They get to do these mighty deeds that they're capable of doing, or maybe they don't do these mighty deeds that they're capable of doing. In the rogues phase, we start off the same way. I roll the dice. For the overtone, I give you a thunder, and then after I've set up the phase and told everyone where they are, I hand the dice to one of the rogue players with a demand. And the demand starts with the ritual phrase, show us. So it's, show us what you spend all of this gold on, or show us how the curse has affected your physical appearance, or something like that. It's something that I want you to show us. You roll the dice right away. Once you've rolled, you narrate in that tone. You get to show us. It's up to you. You can do whatever you want. You can call on other rogue players to talk about what their rogues are doing, but you're the one in charge. After you're done narrating that, you say, I'm done, or somehow indicate to us that you're done narrating it. Anyone, whether they're the person who just narrated, or the overplayer, or any of the other rogue players, can end that phase at that point. But if they don't, then you, the dear rogue players, get to make a demand of someone else. Usually this is of another rogue player, but you are allowed to make demands of the overplayer when you ask about something that's going on in the world that isn't related directly to the rogue players. All right, those are the phases. The other last little bit I want to say about the phases is that phases and scenes are not the same thing. Whenever we start a new phase, it's a good opportunity to start a new scene, but that's not always the case. We can have many phases in one scene, and we can have many scenes in one phase. And quite often with rogue phases, we can do things where we're traveling great distances and having a bunch of tiny little scenes here and there, doing that, wonderful movie montage of we're training, or we're going from point A to point B, seeking out a snake cult, or however you want to do it.
I think we were something like, and 6 years later in one of our
one
of our recent games.
We are unfettered in time. That's another thing we should probably just mention. You can go forward, we can go backwards, however we want to deal with it. All right, so we've talked about the tone. We've talked about the phases. The last bit we need to talk about are the threads. There are 3 threads. There are the motif, the morals, and the mysteries. The morals and mysteries, the dice will tell us when we roll for when those come up. If we roll the dice and both dice come up 3 or less, then we have a thread. We have to build a thread. If they both come up 3 or less and they're not a tie, like you have a 3 jovial and a 2 glum or something like that, then we have a moral. You can go ahead and narrate what you do in the tone that you rolled, but whatever you do is going to have an unintended consequence. And this unintended consequence is going to inspire a lesson in you. So you can come up with that unintended consequence if you want, if you're the rogue player. As the overplayer, it is my duty to make sure that that unintended consequence happens. So I might add more bite to it if you're like, during the fight, I nudge my fellow rogue and they spill their drink on themselves. And like, no, that's not enough. During the fight, you nudge a fellow rogue and they fall into the fire. There we go. We're going to go that way. You can just narrate what you're doing and leave the unintended consequence up to me. You could be like, I don't even want to deal with it. I'm just going to tell you what the glorious thing I'm going to do is. Consequences be damned. And then it's my turn or my job to come up with what those unintended consequences are. Once we know what they are, you get to write a lesson, or a moral, which is a lesson, something that your rogue probably should learn from this. They don't necessarily have to learn it, and as we often find out, they will refuse to learn it, but we'll get to how that works later. You write that down, we put it in under the morals on our tabletop here. This is the moral threads. If we roll 3 or less and it's a tie, that's a stymie, just like before, so that flips the overtone. You're unable to do what you're doing, and it's an escalation. But the cause of this is something supernatural or unknown, something we can't quite understand at the moment. So you get to come up with what stopped you. You don't have to come up with what the actual cause is. You just describe the sort of supernaturalness of it. You're trying to strike at someone and you find that your weapon just bends on their armor. You can be like, yep, that's it. I tried to hit them and my weapon shattered against their breastplate. Then what you do is you write a mystery, which is a question about that. What is this armor that they wear? Or why is it that my weapon has betrayed me? However you want to word that. And we write that under the mystery. Whew, okay, now, so those are the 2 that we get to when we roll. The final thread we need to know about is the motif. If you look over here on the sheet, and by over here on the sheet that's right in front of you right now, I have a very different screen than what you're looking at, I'm sure. We have the first motif, the second motif, and the third motif. And underneath each motif, we have 3 bullet points. Each motif comes with 3 elements, or rather, we're going to build 3 elements into each motif. We add to the motif not when the dice tell us, but when our fellow players describe something that is so awesome, that embodies sword and sorcery in such a way that we cannot ignore it, then we will write it down as one of the elements on these motifs here. And You will notice that when we get going, these will fill up quite fast because we're speedrunners here and we want to get this done fast. When we fill up that first motif with 3 awesome pieces of imagery, 3 bits of sword and sorcery goodness, we move on to the second motif. It doesn't mean anything as far as the story goes. We're still continuing to play in the phases as we normally do. We just go right to the second motif once we filled the first one up. The rule for the second motif is one of those elements has to echo something from the first motif. So at this point, it behooves us to start reincorporating in some way some of the things that are happening on that first motif so that we can encourage our fellow players to write those down. That's an important bit I need to talk about. You can never write down something that you've come up with in the motifs. It's always up to your fellow. You can't be like, I am so goddamn clever, let me write it in. It's got to be something that someone else has done that you're like, you're goddamn clever. All right, so what we're doing then, once we move on to the second motif, is we're trying to be like, look how clever I am. I have reincorporated this this treasure hoard with this other hoard of silver that I found, or whatever. And if somebody says, yeah, that's great, and they write that down, once we have one of those in the second motif, we can finish it. So we can do that right away. We could do it at the end of the second motif, but one of those has to echo something from the first motif. Once we're done with the second motif, we move on to the third motif. And again, one needs to echo something from either of the first 2. We don't have to echo from both of them. We just need to have one echo from either of the first 2 before we can finish the third motif. Upon finishing the third motif, we enter the end game. And that's where the real power of the speedrun comes from. Once we've gotten through all of this, in the end game, we play the game just as we've been playing. But now we can start reincorporating. And when you reincorporate something, you do it during your narration. So you're just saying you've rolled the dice and you're just doing the thing that you would normally do in the game. Tell me about what your rogue is doing, telling us about what your rogue is doing. But then maybe you want to reincorporate one of the morals. So in your narration, you talk about how your rogue, or you demonstrate that your rogue has learned this lesson, or learned the lesson that someone else was supposed to learn, or teach the lesson to someone else, or prove that you will never, ever learn this lesson, which quite often happens. If you do that, we say, yes, you've reincorporated that moral. I think we put like a little R in parentheses after it on our character. Usually we cross it out if we're playing at the table. Nobody else can reincorporate that moral. You're done with the game, which means you no longer can be handed the dice. You can still play your rogue. Your rogue can still slip and struggle and be involved in those ways, but you can no longer roll the dice and do that. But that's fine, because once 2 of the 3 of you reincorporate, we're done with the game. I should say how the other things are reincorporated. Sorry. The mysteries are reincorporated by either solving the mystery, which is something you could do, or by coming up with a question that kind of furthers the mystery here. If your weapon is shattered against your opponent's armor, you may have another question later on. You're like, well, why now will my weapon only wound my allies? Or something like that. So you can reincorporate mysteries that way, or like I said, you can solve it. You could be like, oh yeah, well, my weapon just is upset with me because I wasn't taking good care of it. That's totally possible. And with the motifs, we reincorporate it by picking one of those 3 motifs, taking 2 elements on it, and synthesizing something new. So you have a hoard of gold on there, and you have a winged beast. And so at the end, you could be like, oh, we found a dragon that has been holding this hoard of gold, or however you want to do it. Like I said, once 2 of the 3 of you reincorporate, we're done with the game. And we will put a stop on the stopwatch, and we will tell you how fast our speed run went. I want to just kind of mention, I think our current record is 28 minutes.
That sounds like nonsense. I don't believe. I want to roll to disbelieve. There's no way in which an entire game of Swords Not Master happened in 28 minutes. Oh, wait.
28 minutes and 21 seconds. So you're right.
Yes, thank you. There you go.
Mm-hmm. So we don't necessarily, like I said, we've got some we're still kind of stretching our muscles this morning here. We're off from vacation with this crowd, so we might not make it that fast, but we're going to see what we can do. Okay, that was a big rules barf. How's everyone feeling?
Ready for some action?
Ready.
Okay. So when I roll this first overtone, we're going to get going.
Should we introduce our characters?
Oh yeah, if you want to do that, yeah.
Since I mean, or we could do it through play, but
yeah, let's I think we talked a little bit at the very beginning how they are. Let's just make sure we hit on. I'll start with the rogues phase, and we'll make sure we hit on key details about the characters here. So cool. I am going to roll.
Are you also starting the timer?
Oh yes. All right. First overtone. It is Glum. Perfect.
Glum. Yeah.
Well, of course it's Glum. It is. You're just outside of the city of Fire and Coin at night. The city itself is illuminating the air above it because of the great many fires that go on to keep that city lit at night. You are at, you have a sort of on a desert plain, and you have like a little setup of some tents and some torches there that the three of you are in. There are also nearby other merchants and travelers who are camping outside the city. They go into the city during the day, but they can't afford to stay in the city, so they stay out here. The three of you are sitting around, and it is sometime, I'm not going to say exactly how much, we'll figure that out, but it's sometime since the events of the very first episode. So it's Aya of the Tide has lost her voice, and you are sitting there, and there is a tall, bearded man who's also sitting with you, and he has with him a young boy. The bearded man doesn't speak, but this boy is rolling out a map before you and is pointing out things on it. So I'm going to hand the dice. This is I got to give a thunder. I am out of practice. I think the boy, as he's doing it, keeps looking around. So the thunder is that this boy is obviously nervous, and it wants to get done with whatever business the lot of you are up to. All right, so that's the thunder. Now I'm handing there we go. I'm handing the dice to Aya of the Tide. Show us how, without a voice, you manage to convey what you want to find to these map dealers.
So Aya is sitting across from this.
You should roll first. Sorry.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah,
it's sometime.
Yeah, it's easy to forget.
Nice. Glum.
Always.
Keeping it glum.
So Aya is sitting across from this bearded man. She's swathed in her robes. Her demeanor is sullen. And she's like, her expression is just sunken and sad, and she moves her eyes, but not much else of her is showing that much emotion or motion. But next to her, Hex, her apprentice, it's taking the lead in communicating with pretty much everyone. And Hex is very nervous, kind of gingerly pointing at the map and then looking at Aya. And Aya's face doesn't seem to change, but Hex understands something that she's trying to communicate. And they nod tentatively and point somewhere else on the map and look at Aya. And she this time her eyebrows kind of quirk down slightly. And Hex retracts her hand very, very sharply and says, apologies, and points somewhere else on the map. Like very like quiet, like silently tense interaction going on between the three of them.
Excellent.
And I'm so sorry, forgive me. Now what do I do?
Oh yeah, no, it's fine. Now you can make a demand to someone else as long as nobody wants to end this phase here. I think I'm good with let's keep going. But
Yeah.
Got it. Lena, show us how Lena attempts to rather show us how Lena is keeping the party from scattering to the four winds and never speaking to each other again. It's been very
Tough times for our little group here.
yeah.
All right, let me roll. Okay. Just technically, what do I do to roll?
Oh yes, you can right click on the dice and you should get a what is that?
Choose side.
Random
Random
side. Yeah,
Random side.
you'd be cheating if you chose a side.
All right. So things stay glum.
Yes.
Does this mean I get a unintended consequence?
Yes, this is immoral. So
Oh, that's
this
the
is
perfect
great.
question here. For the unintended consequence. This could go horribly wrong. All right. And Sean, what's the name of your character?
My character's name is Teklikchik.
Oh, you're playing Teklikchik.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. He is a grasshopper man. He also doesn't speak, but that's just him. He doesn't see this as any loss. Doesn't understand why I would be upset about this. Who needs to talk when you have four hands that can communicate all sorts of things? Yeah, and Teklikchik is, sort of gesturing. I'll get into his things on my turn, but yeah, he's taller than everyone else by about a foot, and has lots of limbs, lots of spindly limbs.
Nice.
Awesome. All right, so I'm watching this tense interaction between Aya and Hex and the map dealers, and I think that the glumness, the quietness of this is sort of a mood that our party has taken since there's not a lot of talking going on. And so I am trying to do something in the background, right? Exactly. To sort of ease the tensions and remind us that we are together. So Lena's epithet is silver-throated, Lena Silver-throated. So she sings. And so I think that she's going to try and just in the background of the negotiations at the map, sing a song that maybe it's one that she sang in the past that brought the party together, like it was something that she broke out into when we had had a glorious bust that we had nailed some job and gotten some wonderful reward. And so she's just humming that tune, not the words, and just to remind her fellow rogues that things will go our way. And she's definitely leaving the leading to Aya. Whatever Aya chooses for our next path will be totally fine for Lena. However, there's some kind of unintended consequence of this. So
Yeah.
I'm going to leave that to our intrepid overplayer.
Thank you.
To give us that.
Because I've got one.
You've got one.
So your song is it is beautiful and enthralling enough that this young boy who has been vigil has let his guard down and is sitting there enthralled in your song when four robed figures come running around the tent and grab the bearded man and drag him off with speed.
Oh no.
So you get to write a lesson about that. You go ahead and put that in our little Roll20 chat. But before you do that, you should probably make a demand to someone, or are we ending this phase?
Why don't we end this phase?
All right.
It feels like we're getting perilous.
Yeah.
I have a question about order of operation. Can we, when a rogue is in this leading discovery, can the other rogues describe their reactions or anything?
Oh
like
yeah,
that?
yeah.
I don't
You're
know.
always allowed to like speak up and say something about your rogue. You just can't take over the narration, right?
Yeah,
You can't.
because
Yeah.
I think when like the hum is so beautiful and pervasive, to Click Chick's back legs like bend up backwards and they start thrumming against his hard
Oh,
carapace.
nice.
As there's like this sort of chirping, rhythmy thrum that
Yeah.
happens in response to Aya's to Lena's song. It's just sort of in like in rhythm with it.
Excellent.
So
I love
All
it.
right. I'm going to grab the dice and I am going to. I've somehow bumped my screen so I can't see anything. Okay, now I'm going to roll for our new overtone. Jovial. Good. Yeah. All right. That's a good moral. I'll throw that in for you.
I got you overtone it up.
Okay. So. Right. So this is a new phase. I get to tell you where you are and what's happening. It is morning now. It's a bright, harsh morning. The sun is coming up from the direction you've been running in. You've been chasing after this unknown band of assailants throughout the night. I'm going to give you a thunder. And the boy is with you and trying to go with you, but wait, you know what? I'm not going to make the boy the thunder this time. So the boy, and he's obviously distressed. This is why you're chasing after him, and he refuses to offer up the map until you've helped get this old bearded man. I
love this image of the boy like holding it, sort of like grabbing at it.
So ahead of you, as the sun is rising, this sand is coming up because you can see where these bandits, these marauders, are on camelback, heading away from you. And behind you, there's yet another cloud of sand that is rising as something seems to be following you. That's your thunder. So we are in a perilous phase now, and I need to give you a storm that you need to deal with. So, okay, this is great. The terrain that you're in now, you were running through what was like hard ground, but now you've gotten into a lot of shifting sands with some giant rocks that have been worn away by the sands. But the going is much tougher. It's you're a little more exhausted because your feet sink deeper into the sands as you're going. And now, like, it's just morning, but already the heat of the day is horrendous. And as you trudge along, before you, I'm going to hand the dice here to Click Chick. Some of the wind pushes and a little bit of dune of sand pours down the side, and of course, out from underneath the sand rises a scorpion, roughly the size of a bear, right? Like a big scorpion comes out of the sand between you and where you're headed. I'm just out of curiosity, who was in the lead here? Like who may have been the most forward of the three of you?
I feel like the Click Chick has the longest legs.
Yeah.
All right.
I think the Click, and he also can bound. You know, he's got these very strong legs, so he can. I think he sinks into the sand because his feet are small relative to his weight, but then he can leap.
Right.
So he like a cricket, he doesn't really walk so much as he bounds, and then everyone else catches up, and he bounds again, and then people catch up. Yeah.
I like the idea of seeing like this arc of glistening sand in the sun every time you jump. You know, like the yeah. So
those iridescent wings kind of come out when he jumps too.
Yeah.
And they catch the light.
Perfect. So yeah, you land, and this is where this we're gonna have some insect on arachnid. Wait, I think scorpions are arachnids. We'll worry about that later.
Yes,
that's a question for chat. It lands right in front of you, and I am going to have it. I'm going to do something I rarely do. It's going to just come at the person who has the dice. It reaches out with its claws and grabs at one of your spindly legs. But this is, pincer, right?
Pincer,
it's a scorpion. You got it. If you can use the word pincer, you got to.
You have to use pincer.
Yeah. And it snaps right at your leg. I think the first time it snaps, it just barely misses, and you can feel it. Like you could just, it's your heart shoves your blood against I was just thinking, because you don't have veins, right? Like your heart is just pushing blood against your exoskeleton.
Sloshes around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next time Tkal'chik, who's been trying to wrangle this boy and keep him focused, turns his attention and pulls, just like his arms and legs are spindly, pulls out his long sword, which you can see in my Eidolon, created by Buttopian. So let's just throw that back in chat again. Thank you, Buttopian, for where is it? Why don't I have it handy? That's good radio right there. Let's pull this up. Yes. This was fan art that inspired me to play this character, which was pretty rad.
Yeah, it's
awesome.
Never
pull it up, and there it is. He pulls a spindly sword, which he uses like or he attempts to use like a nutcracker to pry in between the point of the pincer so that it can't close. Uses leverage with getting that sword right in the vertices of the pincers. I think I need to roll if I want to. Yeah,
if you want to, you're slipping and struggling right now. So if you want to roll, you can, but I'm coming at you again if you don't roll.
Yeah. No, I'm waiting for you to come at me. So,
okay, all right, that's right. And the rest of you are not out of this. You can come running into this if you want, but excuse me. Right, so the pincers are nothing but a distraction, aren't they? Like the true problem here is its tail, which comes at you like with the speed of an arrow, and I'm going to hit you with this if you don't roll.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll now. Yeah. That's what I was waiting for. I was like, come on now, give me something more than pincers. Okay, so I'm going to roll. I roll first before I narrate.
Yeah,
right? It's been a while. Okay.
I imagine Lena is running up and trying to hack with her axe oak splitter on one of the legs, and it's just bouncing off because this thing is huge and armored and horrible.
Awesome. So I rolled glum, except for Tkal'chik does not do glum because Tkal'chik's trick is unfathomable and it's unparalleled. And his mood, whenever I roll glum instead of glum, is unfathomable because he is alien and we do not know Tkal'chik's mood. He can be jovial, but he can't be glum.
Nice.
His alien eyes do not betray any emotion. And in fact, he is he is unnerving in the way that he can't be comprehended. So I love that there is this arachnid, there's this insect and arachnid face off. And I believe I can narrate me.
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah. So
for a moment, say what it does and what happens. I'm all in for this Harryhausen shit. Let's do it.
So there's this moment where my antenna start quivering, and the thing seizes up, and its pincer would come flying down, and it seizes up, and there's some sort of communication between the two, between Tkal'chik and the scorpion, and it starts backing up slowly, wary of all of us, unsure unsure of what's going to happen. And there's this kind of duelist, who's going to strike first moment where Tkal'chik has a sword and it has its pincer, and they're both waiting for the first strike, which will be the last one as well. I don't know how far I narrate. It's been a while since I played it.
You could tell this. You could tell us how this ends, or you could stop there. It's up to you. You can.
If I stop here, do I hand the dice to someone else?
Yes, and you can also hold on to those dice and wait for something else to happen. But it's up to you. But do you want to stop your narration here? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think I want to
excellent.
leave in this moment of tension where
Yeah.
it's apprehensive and unsure. Let's see my other fellow friend.
So
What,
I get to keep bringing the storm until someone else rolls those dice.
Yeah.
And I love this standoff. I think the two of you might be slowly circling around each other now, right? Like making these, multi-legged patterns in the sand as you're slowly waiting for a moment. And I think that this is, if the other rogues don't mind, I think that this is like a moment where you kind of stand back just a little bit to see what's going to happen. If you want to jump in, let me know that you're jumping in. But I've got to bring some kind of this is attracted other interests from the desert creatures, and I think that carrion birds that stand as tall as a person have. I said that there are these rocks that were made smooth by the desert sands. They come and land. Three of them land on these three different rocks, and they stand over you with their bald heads and hunched shoulders. And they're big enough that they can, while everyone's kind of dancing around in this circle here, they will take snapping shots at and kind of keeping the other ones, the other rogues, busy, occupied. Because I've got a whole lot of Ray Harryhausen going on in my head right now. At this point, then I am going to. I think that the one that breaks is the scorpion. The scorpion shifts to the left. It's a clever beast. It shifts to the left, but swings around from the right with its stinger. Tries the same thing again, where it comes out with the pincer to try and push to click chick and into the stinger. And I'm gonna have that stinger come around until someone rolls the dice.
I'm going to roll. I have them.
Here comes the stinger.
Yeah.
Glum.
Oh, let's put him out.
I've never rolled jovial with this character.
I mean, I don't think
Aya has no jovial in her.
You should also take the unparalleled trait and just replace jovial with glum, so that
make it official.
What even is happiness? Okay, so Aya's been quiet, necessarily, but also just in terms of action she's been taking. And you finally see what she's been brooding over and working on while this conflict just swirled around her. And like all of the sound of like feet shifting in the sand and carrion birds' wings fluttering kind of dies down. And she's looking into her mirror, and she taps the underside of the mirror, and from under the scorpion, her familiar refraction explodes in the form of a snake, because that's the only way you can escalate insect and arachnid is
snake.
And refraction sinks their fangs into the scorpion and begins to try and coil around it.
Yes, this is great. I hear clicking. I think somebody's putting up a motif here. I definitely want to throw that into the motif, but I was just excellent. Do you want to end that phase there, or do we want to keep going?
I think I want to keep going, actually.
All right.
So I will pass the dice to Lena.
All right.
And that's, I think I'm done.
All right. So I'm going to bring some more storm here. Refraction? Was that the name of refraction. As a snake sinks its fangs, this is like venom, and the scorpion Oh, all right. Now Refraction's in trouble, right? So the snake is wrapping around the scorpion. The scorpion is trying to get its pincers at the snake. It can't reach its tail around. The tail is whipping around, dripping with venom, obviously, because if you have venom, it drips. That's the only way
Just
to
the thing
indicate
venom
that.
does.
Yeah. I think that it's trying to get its pincers on Refraction, and it's managed to like almost get a grip on it, like maybe cut like some scales off and throwing it.
Ooh, are they giant scales?
Yeah, how big is Refraction at this point?
I think Refraction is literally just big enough. So probably, I don't know if the scorpion is what, person sized?
Bear
No,
size.
it's
is
bear
what it says.
Bear size. Then Refraction's pretty big. So
Yeah.
giant scales.
And they're obviously these scales glisten in the light, right? These are from your mirror magic, so that they're gonna, I'm going to cut Refraction with pincers here if no dice are rolled. Or I mean, do people want to slip and struggle? They can go ahead and do that. But
yeah. I know Teklikchik will be struggling in that he's trying to keep the scorpion's attention. He's trying to hold his attention, so it knows that if it turns his attention away from him too much, that it will that he could strike a deathly blow. But he is also distracted because he's making these like weird chirping sounds that resonate throughout. And we can see, because this giant battle hasn't gotten big enough yet. One of the things which I have named is the army of grasshopper men. They're like mine to describe.
Of course.
That's, I put it. So like we're seeing like on the distance, like Teklikchik's people coming to. This is going to turn into a giant like fracas. Like it was a one person fight, but now there's carrion birds and there's snakes. So he's trying to summon his allies. Hopefully they will make it in time.
Let's talk a little bit about those carrion birds, because I think it's important to know that one of these carrion birds has now grabbed in its beak the boy, right? Has reached down, grabbed the boy, and has done the thing that like thrown is trying to throw the boy up and just take swallow the boy whole.
All right, I'm rolling.
Okay.
I'm rolling.
Oh, we got to put these on the table here. There we go. Glum, good.
Yep, naturally.
All right, let me look at my glumness. All right, so, well, there's a dilemma here. There's Refraction in danger, and there's the boy in danger. And I think that what Lena's going to do, because Lena was pretty close to this roiling mass of giant bodies, because she was trying to hit the legs before of the scorpion. So as those beautiful giant scales fall off of Refraction in this magical form, I think Lena's going to grab one of them and use it as a shield. And looking back and forth between Refraction needing help and the boy, she's going to run over to the boy because the boy seems helpless, and hoping that Refraction can fight back against the scorpion. Is going to, let's see, got the shield now. It's different with the vulture thing. Oh, I know. I think she'll just jump up and stuff the scale into the maw of the scorpion. I mean the vulture, and try and snag the boy out of that path, so that the boy will just tumble down onto the sands, and then she'll face off against the vulture. And I will pass the dice back to Aya, if I may.
All
and
right.
let the battle continue.
Excellent. So yeah, that vulture is now choking on a scale and slipping off of its rock and thrashing about. Its wings are kicking up a bunch of sand too, which is making things harder to see. And like I said, it's warm out, you're sweating. So this is caking on to making everything even more unpleasant. But we still have this problem of the scorpion and refraction. The scorpion has wedged its pincers around. I feel like it's starting to waver, right? Like it's got the refraction's venom running in it, but it's still like trying to pull these pincers. It's not doing it like snapping quick, but trying to force them down. You can see blood trickling as they're cutting into the sides of refraction. Should I keep going? Oh, I think you're muted.
No, just muted.
Oh my God, it's method acting.
I'll roll now.
Yes.
I'm still glum. Come on.
Oh, but this is great because it's a moral.
It's great. And I think I'm going to use my trick.
Oh,
Which is, of course, turning into a wolf.
nice.
Why not? And so as refraction continues to struggle with this scorpion, Aya's eyebrows like fork sharply over her nose, and like the camera zooms in really close and you can see the hair growing from her eyebrows to cover her entire forehead, sweeps back, and as the camera pans out, she turns into a wolf, a very large wolf, and she slinks forward as the scorpion continues to try and defeat this snake, and sinks her teeth into this tail of the scorpion and begins to shake her head. And you would expect a lot of noise from all of this, but it's eerily silent.
Nice.
Just silently trying to shake the scorpion to death, as any good canine Lupin would.
That is great. Yeah. Oh, that's a good motif. Echoing. All right. Good. Yeah.
And
perfect.
Yeah.
I think I would like to put an end to
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Are you gonna finish this off?
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
But you do need a moral out of that.
Yes.
Because you rolled a moral.
I'm going to give you an unintended consequence, unless you have an unintended consequence in mind. If you don't, I can definitely throw you one.
I will give you the unintended consequence, and then I need to think of a moral.
Right. So I think in this thrashing, as you're shaking it back and forth, it stings you, right? Like it gets you. And I even want to say that like that's nothing to Aya as a wolf, but you know that means something when Aya becomes human again, right? So you can feel the venom, but your supernatural state right now fends it off. Does that work for you? Excellent.
Yes.
All right.
And I think the moral that I should and maybe will learn is that, how do I word this? Facades can only ever be temporary.
Nice.
Oh.
And
I'm glum.
Yeah.
Excellent.
She hides behind a lot of masks, but
okay. Starting a new phase. I think I'm going to do
I
another.
have an idea.
What's that?
I want to use my trick.
What's your trick?
It's locus.
Oh, good.
And I know that I established a setting. I don't know if I say what kind of scene it is or if you do that.
No, I do that. You just tell us where it's set.
All right. So here's my idea.
Mm-hmm.
So we were in like a really sandy part of the desert.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking we're in a different part of the desert where there's some scrub around and a little bit of like more solid ground. And I have created a sauna out of the shell of the scorpion and some skins and things. And we had the group of the giant grasshoppers, cricket people coming in. So maybe we're encamped with them, and we're licking our wounds.
Yes.
And figuring out how next to go after these bandits. At any rate, that's
perfect.
We're all
Yes.
there. Sauning.
So you're in a sauna made from what you've managed to scavenge from the desert, including your fallen scorpion foe.
And maybe some of those giant scales as well that were left after the battle.
I am. Anyways, yes. So I was going to do a rogue's phase, but I think this is a good discovery phase moment. So that's what I'm going to do. Is a discovery phase. You are encamped with the all the tiny little fires of these cricket warriors have their own camps outside the sauna. It is night. It's coming on nighttime, right? Like it's got the nice purple hue to the sky as the sun sets in the west. You have lost ground, but you've not lost the trail to these bandits who've run off with it. And I've got to give you a thunder. I think that there's the thunder is that there's grumbling amongst the crickets, the grasshoppers. They're not. This is a time of night where they should be making noise. They should be making their songs, and instead they're maybe.
The glumness of our party has been forced upon them.
Yeah, and I think they've been called to an unnatural terrain, and
they may not be making noise because they don't want to attract the attention of more dangerous foes, right? Like clearly, this is a desert just literally brimming with all sorts of monsters, beasts that just appear out of nowhere. So,
okay,
I'm sure, they're unnaturally quiet.
So it's a discovery phase. I'm going to hand it, since Sean's got some ideas there, I'm going to hand it to you. You get to roll and make a discovery. I am adding a sauna made from fallen foes to our motif.
Yes. All right. We'll roll first. Okay. Unfathomable again. It seems to be there's no jovial results, but there can be non-glum results because I took a trait. And remind me the format is that.
So you just come up with something about the world that we have learned through your rogue, either something that they are right now experiencing or something that they remember or whatever. And then you'll ask me a loaded question about it.
Cool. Excellent. So what isn't happening is they're not playing the telltale song of the cricket people, but what they are doing is there's this like low murmur as this sort of information network of the grasshoppers are exchanging like what they've seen. And when it comes back, when Tklichik's antennas kind of wibble, like he has found the location of the bandits because they have seen them. They've seen, some of them have seen them on the road. And he signs, and Tklichik, one of the other things I own is the perfect clarity with all the wrong context in his signings. So it's like it comes across as like the bandits are doing their laundry at the right, like it's always the wrong. It's like you understand what he means, but there's definitely a translation issue when he signs, so he's like the bandits are doing their laundry, which maybe means they're laundering their goods, but in this case it sounds very much like they're washing clothes in a cave in a cave to the north. And my question to you, Effie, is that what sorcery what sorceress ward protects that cave.
Mhm.
Oh, good.
Oh, we've no, it's fine. We'll stick with,
No.
we've used a cave before, but it's fine. There's lots
That's
of
fine.
caves in
Yeah.
this genre.
There's caves out there. Yeah. I think, okay. Okay, so the deal is that these brave warriors of yours will not be able to follow you into the cave because nobody there are no people of honor allowed past the ward, and so you have these honorable cricket warriors at your command that clearly can't cross it. Now, I don't know if that means you people can. That's up to you. But they know that they won't be. They can take you as far as the cave, but they cannot go in. I think I'd like at least one more discovery, so you can just go ahead and pass the dice to one of the
Sure.
other players.
Lena, I'll pass the dice over to you.
All right.
You roll first.
That's great. And what will it be?
Okay, the best. So in the so we're going to go jovial. It's a discovery phase. So you're going to tell us about something you should have known or discovered but did not. And then the reason why you didn't has to be something supernatural. And then you're going to ask me a question about the thing that you didn't discover. And you are also going to write a question about the supernatural thing that prevented you from discovering it. This is the single most difficult role in this game, but we can do it. We can make it happen.
Awesome.
So to be clear, there's both a moral and a mystery that comes out of this.
It's a mystery, but also we're in the middle of a discovery phase. So it's just difficult because there are two questions that have two different masters in a game without masters.
There's no masters.
All right. Well, I'm thinking that this relates to when we're sort of like checking out that ward.
Mm-hmm. So we're in gone into the future now. You've arrived at the cave, or are you somewhere near the cave?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
We have this wonderful information. We can act on that, and what I think is that Lena totally thinks that she won't be able to go through the ward, and totally can.
Right.
So she somehow is preparing to watch the boy or something, and so that's what I'm thinking gets stymied there.
Right.
And but then we're all trying to figure out if any of us can go through.
Mm-hmm.
So my question for you is, how is it that we all learn that all of us, even the boy, can go through?
Okay. Yeah. So
and then that's the mystery part, right?
The mystery has to be something supernatural that prevents you from realizing you can go through, right? Because you're thinking that you can't.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what supernatural doesn't let us know that we actually are free to go in there if we want to? I guess that's what I should have asked.
Yeah.
For the mystery.
And
then the stymie sort of is wrapped up in there as well.
Yeah. No, sorry. So the mystery is one that you write down on the thread, but you do ask me a loaded question. So the original question you asked me is a loaded question, and I can answer that one.
All right. So I'll do the mystery after we do the
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying. Oh my God, I have to remember this previous adventure here. I think. Right. I think you think you're honorable, but clearly you're not, because you've all stolen from the giant, the dead giant, right? Like you've all stolen the dead giant's amulet. and it makes you. Oh, and you have an amulet much like that, right?
Yeah, that's one I
Yeah.
stole from a wizard.
Yes. So, so you're thinking the whole time, all you can think about is all the honorable things that you've done, and you're unable to think about all the dishonorable things that you've done. But you have, in fact, done many, many dishonorable things. So you think you can't go past this ward. And then the question you asked me is, how do you find out that you can? And I think it's that while you're all there watching this, maybe trying to come up with a plan to ambush them when they come out of the cave or something like that. I'm going to use this boy because I have this boy. I haven't given him a name. And I think he tumbles in, and without thinking about it, the three of you rush in to stop him or to get him, and then you're on the inside of this ward here. I am ending this phase because this is set up for a rogue's phase.
Awesome.
And I am jovial. We're
I
jovial.
think everybody knows who made that last motif, and it was glorious.
That's great.
We do need to write down a mystery, right?
Yeah. So, Em, you need to write some question about the supernatural thing that prevented you from knowing it.
All right, great.
Yeah.
But I'm going to start a rogue's phase here. You are inside this cave, and it is jovial. So you get into the cave, and you expect it to be dark and cool, and it is, in fact, cool, but there's plenty of light further into the cave. It's well lit. The walls are iridescent, so it's reflecting all this torch and lantern light. You can hear the echoing voices, and it is the cave is just like filled with it's a illegal bazaar, right? Like it's all of these bandits from all these different places come into this cave that has this ward that prevents honest people from coming in, where they can make dealings with their stolen goods safe from the honest authorities. And there's far more voices than you expect to hear. And in these echoes, as you're trying to sneak in, you know how that thing that happens when you're in a crowd and you occasionally hear your own name? You hear that many times. So the people know of you, even if they don't know that you're in there yet. They're talking of you. So that's your thunder. And this is a rogue's phase. And I am going to hand the dice. I think I'm going to hand the dice to. Yeah. So I show us what you do when you see amongst the throng of people the voice thief.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna be like, I want the voice in here.
Okay, so roll first.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keeping it jovial.
Awesome.
Aya unleashed.
So I was gonna kind of go ham. So I have a heroic feat. And my jovial heroic feat is to turn my mirror and blind my opponents with their hidden truth. Aya takes reflection, her mirror, and turns it and holds it out, showing the voice thief their own face in this mirror. And like a piercing, high-pitched noise reverberates through this very like packed, close space. Like this horrible din of noise and stolen voices just bursts forth from this mirror and just kind of flatten all other conversation and topics. And over this mirror, Aya's just glaring in fury. And there's just like a very what's the word I'm looking for? Like a very, like you can see Aya's face and then the camera like spins 360 to show the voice thief staring at the mirror.
Excellent. I love that. I'm putting that in as the final thread in our motif. So we're in the end phase. We can start reincorporating. And I say we keep going with this rogue phase. That's good with everyone.
Yeah.
So I make a demand of someone else?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. To Click Chick, show us how are all of your grasshopper squad there, or were they
No,
not?
none of them could come in the cave
Right.
because they're all honorable.
You.
Except for
Except
me.
for you. Okay. Show us how To Click Chick dishonorably approaches this new foe.
So To Click Chick in many other places would seem out of place. Oh, I should roll first.
Yeah.
Let's roll them dice. Random.
Yes.
Okay.
So you're stymied. So we're all unfathomable.
Yes. So now the mood becomes unfathomable. Nobody can understand. It's alien. It's scary. It's weird.
And you were unable. What was the demand exactly again?
How To Click Chick dishonorably approaches this new foe.
So
Or new old foe.
Yeah. So you can't do that. But however, whatever the negative of that demand is up to you, Sean.
Right. Excellent. So I think To Click Chick is in normal circumstances he would stand out incredibly, but this place makes me think a little of the Mos Eisley Cantina, right? There's just like tons of creatures and people of all nature. So he doesn't actually stand out that much, and so he's with his slender body he's sort of folded himself up to be as compact as possible, and he's kind of like weaving through the he's sort of reading to the audience, and then just as he's going to get close to this foe, he picks up a strange scent in the air of another insect creature that is giving off pheromones, and his like wings like inexplicably for no reason like snap out, and they like snap out to their fullest size, and so like he was trying to sneak up on this person. Instead, you said there was all this iridescent light from the lights. Well, he has these iridescent wings as well, and they all glow off his iridescent wings, and suddenly To Click Chick is like a bunch of people are staring at him, including the voice thief, who like turns and sees him with like these like with these giant sort of wings and this sort of alien pose, and he's frozen there for a moment of obviously he's been caught, but also there's all this attention on him, so I'm going to pass the dice to Lena to say, how do you turn this? How does Lena turn this sudden tension into an opportunity?
Aha.
And I just want to make sure you did not reincorporate there, or did you?
Oh, I was not thinking of it.
That's fine. You don't
I'm going to
have to. I was
say
just checking.
no. I think it's perfect. I'm going to say beauty can bring danger. Because he has these fascinating, beautiful wings, and they've now just brought all this attention to him. So
perfect.
Yes, I was totally reincorporating there.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, gonna roll. Oh
my goodness.
So we are, oh my God.
The mood should go to Jovial. Unfathomable is the replacement for Glum. So
right. So it's going to Jovial. Thank you. That is something I literally don't have in the rules. I don't think it's ever happened to me.
And to be clear, since I set the mood that way, I think everybody is staring with like this weird like hypnotism, this weird alien, like confusion and hypnotism in space. Until now.
Yes. So now this would also be a mystery. It's a stymie, definitely, but it would also be a mystery unless you reincorporate M, and then we just end the game.
Well, I really want to reincorporate.
Yeah.
Because the question of who made the ward around the bandits' cave seems really clear to me now that it was the voice thief.
So what was the demand again? Just
Yeah.
Well,
What was the
the demand was how does Lena make use of this distraction that the click check has just inadvertently caused?
right. So you can't do that, but you can show how you fail to do that.
All right, awesome. I want to know, what are Naja and Hex doing right now? I'm just curious.
Hex is stuck outside the ward.
Oh,
Hex
okay.
is honorable.
Yay.
Which is perhaps why they don't understand what Aya is trying to teach them. Aya is still holding her mirror and glaring at her foe.
Yeah.
And there's like Click Chick is doing this pose and bewildering people with that, but there's still like this susurration of stolen voices emanating from her mirror.
Okay, awesome. All right, so what Lena wants to do is, this is the perfect moment, right? The voice thief is distracted in the mano-a-mano against Aya, and everyone else is bewildered and befuddled by the unfathomable to Click Chick. Of course, Lena should just like scoot over and like steal or break or whatever it is that will release all the voices, and then Aya will have her voice back and everything will be great. So that's what she tries to do. And in a jovial way, right? So it's not like sneaking. It's like she leaps and she yells and she like focuses on the voice thief and like can you tell me what the voice thief is wearing, or that Lena's like so convinced that this will just be the final thing that'll like pop the spell and release all these voices?
Right. Yeah. So the voice thief, I think, is wearing rich robes. They, I think, when you first came in, the voice thief was hooded, but because of the mirror and because of Aya, like the hood has fallen back, and I want what a voice thief. I think
not to steal a little bit too much from Little Mermaid here, but I love the idea of him having a big like conch that holds
perfect. Yeah, that's great.
Hanging from his neck.
Yeah, let's do it.
That actually goes back to our last game, because I think shell was one of the things that was used in that ancient sauna that we found ourselves in. Okay, great. And so what I'm thinking happens is actually that I bounce right off. So like there was a ward around the cave, and there's like a ward around the voice thief. So that tells us, so that would be reincorporating who made the ward, because that's part of what the voice thief does. So that's what. Go ahead, take it.
I was just going to say, can it be a ward that allows nobody who's dishonorable through?
Yeah.
Oh,
no one is dishonorable.
So the voice thief keeps everyone at a distance inside this cave. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, he's got a ward. He's got a pair of wards which create a riddle in and of themselves.
Totally.
Excellent. So you reincorporate that mystery, and we are. I think we're done. We don't do. Should we do an epilogue?
No, I mean, This leaves everything beautifully unresolved, which I think is
great. Let's do it. All right. Well, there you go, folks. So the good news is that was awesome.
Yes.
The bad news is we're not breaking any speedrun records today.
No, but how do we do?
We did 57 and 18 seconds.
So we did break a record. We're the longest run.
Yes. Oh, that is correct. Yes. Yes.
Hello.
Let's call Guinness. But that was great. I had a lot of fun. That was a ton of fun.
Yeah, that was good times.
I really enjoyed it.
The voice will come back.
Someday it will come back. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you felt about it, Anja, but I liked it.
No, it's fine. What's funny is that Aya never said anything before she lost her voice anyways.
Right.
Mad about
yeah.
It's no longer a choice, and now she's angry about it.
Right.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I did like this game. As I was writing up to Click Check, I was thinking about like, oh yeah, I can't talk either. Maybe I should make him talk. I'm like, no, this is nobody talks in this man, except for Lena, who sings beautifully, right?
Yeah.
Gorgeous. I love that Aya knows where the voice is hidden now and who has it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Leaving for
One
for
day.
another time.
Yeah.
The reclaiming.
Excellent.
That was good times. Thanks for having me in the game.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it was fun to play a rogue. Oops, wrong screen. It's fun to play a rogue for a little bit. You get to do so many rad things. I'm Sean Nittner. I use he/him pronouns. You can find me here on the Twitter on twitch.tv/actualplay, or on Twitter at Sean Nittner. And coming up soon, I'm heading to Gen Con, which I'm super excited about. So that should be rad. Also, if Shosh is still on the stream, it's worth noting that Shosh and John the Buff Little just released Scum and Villainy, so it's available for pre-order right now. It's super good spacefaring scoundrel adventures. So along with Swords Without Master, it is a fave on the channel. So
Nice.
yeah, that's my shtick. How are the rest of you heading out? Oh, one more thing. Sorry. Come back in an hour to watch us play Sync, because Kira and Andy and Karen and I will be playing Sync.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right, that's my bit.
Cool. I'm Najo Tikor, aka Tristaray on Twitch. You can find me on Twitter at Trist_CHI, where I am narrating the bizarre and beautiful odd couple situation I've got going on with Blue Jay right now. We've learned a lot about each other. I am kind of slow in making content right now because I am moving very slowly to an apartment that I will have in August, and then I can start looking about doing more things on the internet. But yeah, give me a follow on Twitter and you can stay caught up on all of my nonsense. Have a good rest of your Sunday.
I'm Emily Caraboss, and I'm at Emily Care on Twitter. blackgreengames.com online, and you can check out my games and stuff there. And I'm thrilled to have gotten to play. It was so fun, and I can't wait to see our further adventures some other time. Have a great Sunday, everybody.
Excellent. I'm Epediah Ravishaw. I'm going to cough. I am Epediah, EPIDIAH, on Twitter. You can follow me there. I do a lot of talking there. You can also go to my website, dig1000holes.com, or you can go to worldswithoutmaster.com and pick up this very game in issue 3 of Worlds Without Master.
You should get it.
And I also want to do a shout out. We did this. Sean mentioned this, that one of our viewers, who's on Twitter as Buttopian, did some fan art, and at the beginning of the game, we were all like, "We're gonna make our Eidolons Buttopians fan art." So that was awesome. That was a feedback loop that when I designed this game originally, I had no idea could possibly happen. Like, that's not, and it's a big wondrous thing, and I'm super excited about that.
Yes, you should go check out Buttopian's art. It's awesome.
Yeah.
We're very happy that they've made us. They've made us art. In fact, I think Buttopian's avatar is now Click Chick Sorcerer's Apprentice. Honestly, I'm pretty sure.
Yes,
it's Click Chick with like a row with stars on it. I played an earlier version of Click Chick today before he became the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Thank you all. I have to click on the thing.
Thank you, everybody. That was so fun.
Thank you.
Bye.